All right, it's time for another AND Campaign Civic update. And this is actually the first Civic update of 2025. So I want to say hello to everybody. Glad to have you back. And I want to talk about one of Trump's executive orders. I've been getting so many questions, even from close friends, from organizations I'm in, about these executive orders. And I'll be honest with you, I just hadn't had a chance with all that was going on to sit down and really dig into them. And I didn't want to give you information that I hadn't been diligent about kind of researching. I've had that chance to do that. And I want to get into this because since Monday, Trump has issued a number of executive orders. And I can't get to all of them right now, but I do want to focus on one that's been causing a lot of concern for people around me. And this was an executive order entitled Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit-Based Opportunity. Interesting name. Now, what this executive order did was it revoked an executive order that was issued by President Lyndon B Johnson in 1965, dealing with affirmative action for federal contractors and subcontractors, okay? This is very significant, and anybody who knows me knows that I support affirmative action programs, so I disagree with where this is going, and this is a major change to the direction that we've been on for decades. Now, I want to be clear though, because there's some bad information going around too. Trump did not, and Trump cannot repeal the Civil Rights Act. That's not what happened here. And I see some folks are kind of being ambiguous on whether that happened or not. And so leading people to believe that this was a removal of all discrimination protections. That's not exactly what happened here. Johnson's executive order required federal contractors to have affirmative action programs, to have outreach and recruitment for minorities to be part of some of those federal contracts. Okay? Now, a company could be fined or they could actually be barred from getting federal contracts if they did not comply. That was what that executive order did, and it had been in place through Republican and Democratic administrations since 1965. That has been revoked. Very big deal. Now what we have is federal contractors and federal grantees, which means it could include nonprofits who have grants from the federal government, must certify that they do not have diversity and equity inclusion programs as part of their organization. They have to sort of certify that in order to get a contract or a grant or keep their contract and their grants. Okay? Very important. So that's how it could affect you if you have a federal contract or a federal grant. So I want to make sure you guys understand that. I disagree and find this very troubling and a change of direction that's not going to be good. Let me, as I always try to do, give you the other side of the argument. Folks on the other side, and some conservatives have been saying for a long time that these type of regulations actually create a quota system that are unfair and actually undermine America's merit-based principles. All right, so that's what they're saying, and that's actually where the title for this comes from. Now, I'll be honest with you, one of the things that caught me off guard in the last few years is just how unpopular affirmative action programs are in general in America. And that's not even necessarily on a partisan basis if you look at the numbers. Even if you go, and this is just for general programs for affirmative action, but even if you go to states like California, affirmative action has been shot down in those states years ago. It's just not popular, and it seems like people are leaning more towards kind of a class-based action rather than kind of affirmative race-based action. You even have some progressives like Ryan Grimm who tweeted out that DEI was an active impediment to the project of building a multiracial working class movement. There's just not a lot of appetite for those kind of programs right now. For better or worse, that's where we're at. So not only does there have to be some pushback here, but there has to be some persuasion on why those programs are important. And I know I'm willing to have those conversations myself. One argument that I've even heard from some African Americans is that these affirmative action programs actually only help a certain class of black people and don't actually trickle down to poorer black people. So they're taking a lot of social capital, but aren't going to the people who need it most. I'll let you guys decide the merits of those arguments, but I do think it's important for me to bring those to you, whether I agree with them or not. So what does this mean for race-based programs? Does it mean race-based programs are over forever? I wouldn't go that far. I mean, Trump is only in office for 4 years. The next president can come in and reverse what he did. I think the bigger issue is not necessarily that it can't be reversed by another executive order. It's the lack of appetite or support for affirmative action in general that we're seeing from a lot of different spaces that should cause us some concern. But it's a lot of people would prefer, and I think this was where Ryan Grimm was coming from, to have class-based action rather than race-based action, because that would affect more people and not necessarily get trapped in helping just upper class or upper middle class people in certain groups. So those are the arguments. You take what you want. I think this is a major change and a major shift of direction, but I'll be back and kind of talking about more of these executive orders as time goes on. If you like this information, if you like this commentary, make sure you listen to the Church Politics Podcast when you get a chance. I'll see you guys later.